Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ray here. Finally getting to this one. A lot of y'all requested it, and I've been talking about getting this one done for a little bit now. It is the big dive, the big theory dive on what I think is happening with Final Fantasy VII Remake's storyline, especially with the end of Intermission and all that kind of craziness it threw at us. Before I get into it, if you would, subscribe over here to the channel, YouTube, Kaufman20XX, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow me on there. Like the video if you would. I appreciate it. A lot of hard work and love goes into these videos, so I appreciate all the love y'all give back. But going ahead and getting into it, the ending of Intermission left most with more questions than answers. And, you know, I will say at first I was kind of shocked by what I saw as well. I've been saying the whole time I thought Zack was alive. And it is the current timeline, and nothing has changed for me. I still feel like that is the way it is, that's the way they're going, and it's only altered. Now, we're going to get into exactly why I feel that way and what I think is going on. Here are a few key points that have led me to this theory. So, number one, Yuffie and Sonnen, we now know, did not rescue Biggs and Jesse. Actually, Biggs is what has led me to this full-on conclusion. At the end of Remake, we see Biggs laying in bed as the sparkles fell from the defeat of the Whisperers and the Arbiter of Fate. But now we know it was not Yuffie and Sonnen who helped him get there. So how did he get there? And yes, Jesse's gloves are there, but I'm not going to get into that because we don't know if she's really alive or dead, and it's not really pertinent to what we're talking about here. So we'll get into that, but we'll answer that one here in a little bit. Number two, Zack is absolutely alive in this timeline. I have no questions about that whatsoever. The people in the church at the end are character renders from some of the Midgardians, Midgar people, citizens of Midgar, whatever you want to call people who live in Midgar, that we see in the opening cinematics. So I believe they are merely there mourning the loss of Sector 7 and some people maybe they knew in Sector 7 or beloved ones. But there's more to it than that. So, how did they get there? Who knows? We're going to get into that here in a second too, because I'm going through these points and we're going to get into how all this stuff comes together. And yes, I know Aerith's music in that scene is very sad. I don't think there's anything to it other than music is a tool that a lot of directors use to make you feel a certain way in a scene. They want you to feel uneasy, want you to feel discomfortable, or discomfort and uncomfortable. That is the point of music. And Intermission, Remake in general, uses music exactly how it should be used in like a movie or a video game. It makes you feel something. And that's exactly what they did here. And to an amazing degree, judging by some of the theories I've seen floating around the internet, you know, bravo to the director and the production staff and the composers and everybody who put that together, because people are wilding over what's going on with that music there. Number three, the subtle changes we see reflected through the past and present. Exhibit A is obviously the Stamp Champ's bag. The beagle throughout the entire game is now the terrier mysteriously by the end. But there's also another that is quite curious. The birds. The bird in the opening is a hawk, but the bird flying overhead at the end of Intermission, after the alteration would have occurred, is different. Now remember, the alteration to the timeline has happened at this point. They're out of the singularity. They got out of that. Now, this is when things are different. This is when they're going to start seeing like the terrier Stamp Champ bags and all that kind of stuff. It's the same region, but a slight variation. Now, could this be nothing? Absolutely sure. Could it be something? Again, absolutely sure. It could be something. So let's just get right into it. As a lot of you know, the concepts of dealing with chaos are present throughout the entirety of the Final Fantasy series. And Final Fantasy VII is also steeped in its influence. Look no further than the mega popular protagonist Vincent Valentine. My guy. You all know Vincent Valentine's my guy. I talk about it from here to forever. Vincent's my dude in this game. He's actually fused with chaos. So knowing this, it stands to reason that influences from chaos theory could also be present in the tale as well. Stay with me. Stay with me. Chaos theory is an interdisciplinary theory stating that within the apparent randomness of life, there are underlying patterns, interconnectedness, constant feedback loops. See what I did there? See what I did there? Cyclical time loops, right? Repetition, self-similarity, fractals, and self-organization. Now, within chaos theory, there is another little principle called the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, an underlying principle of chaos, describes how a small change in one's state of a nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. Basically meaning, if you're driving down the road and you're a litter bug, first of all, shame on you. But if you throw a bottle out the window outside of a town somewhere, and then 30 years later that town could be destroyed because of the dominoes that fell because of that bottle. You throw a bottle out the window, somebody stops to pick it up, the person stops, picks it up, gets hit by a truck. The person that got hit by the truck was, you know, the son or the daughter of like someone powerful. Someone powerful grows to hate what happened there, comes to destroy the town, stuff like that. That's butterfly effect. Whereas if you don't throw that bottle out the window, it doesn't happen. You know, so that's kind of what that's talking about. If you don't know what butterfly effect is, I understand a lot of you out there may not be familiar with that. I believe this is what we are seeing happen now within the story. The world is now changed because of the butterfly effect that saved Zack. Now, I do not believe that Zack's survival is the root cause of this, however. Like, you think about the changes to Stamp, the small aesthetic changes to the church. Midgar looks slightly more clean when Zack looks at it after the explosion, after he beats the soldiers. Some people are in different places than we see them in the outset of Remake. So why haven't our party members changed? Well, as I talked about in the previous video, they were in the Singularity, deceived into finding the planet and breaking Sephiroth's soul out of the Lifestream jail. That's exactly what happened there, I feel. So while they were within the Singularity, the butterfly effect that has ran roughshod over Gaia has already begun. Before the Singularity dissipated and deposited the whole party safely outside of Midgar, the changes had already taken hold, thus leaving Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Barret, and Nanaki unchanged, but the world outside slightly to possibly vastly different. And they wouldn't be aware of this. They wouldn't be aware of what's going on. Aerith might have an inkling to what's going on, but we'll continue, and I'll explain why Aerith may not be as savvy as she was before the Singularity. This is also why Aerith is not in the church at the end of Intermission's cutscene when Zack goes in there, but some things in the church have changed. The interior of the church is a little less disheveled. The cross or structure behind the pulpit is wooden and not stone as it was in Remake. Some of the people from the upper plate are present in a church in the slums because their situations may be different than they were in the original game when you're playing through and seeing them in the upper plate scenes. This is why I feel like Stamp has been rebranded and why the birds flying overhead are different breeds. It's the butterfly effect. While they were in the Singularity, it came like a tidal wave over the beach. While they were in the Singularity, that's when it affected the world. Bookending is a huge storytelling tactic used all throughout Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the birds are a nice yet kind of intriguing bookending. Now, this one here took some thinking for me, and it took me a while to figure out where I wanted to go on this. But let's discuss the two Buster Swords and what possibly happened to Cloud and Zack once they returned to Midgar. This is one I went back and forth on for a little bit actually, but first and foremost, I absolutely feel like Hojo and Shinra reacquired Zack and Cloud once they arrived in Midgar, or were close to the city. Zack would have been too weak to fight them off again, and Cloud was incapacitated. So I still believe that Shinra had Zack tucked away in a secret lab somewhere. We see Cloud having a flashback of him being activated in Remake in that eerie scene after the battle with the unknown entity. I believe that is a clue to where Zack has been stashed. So I believe that whatever the original thing was that causes the butterfly effect was not Zack's survival, but leads to Zack's survival. Well, that and the Whispers intervening on behalf of Zack with, interfering with the troops during the battle. What could the original change have been, though? It could have been anything, something small, something large, but it would have had to predate the creation of the stamp mascot at least, because that's completely rebranded and changed. So why 2 Buster Swords? Well, I've been of a mind that time is slowly changing as you play through Remake, especially if you listen to the random chatter that's present throughout the game. So who or whatever is responsible for the butterfly effect, its effects are already starting to reverberate throughout time. So when Cloud and company go into the Singularity, Zack had died. In that, before reality is altered, before the butterfly effect takes hold, the changes that were made by the planet take hold and affect the present. Zack had absolutely died. Cloud found his way to Midgar, and thus things played out, for the most part, as they were supposed to. And then they entered the Singularity, where they are unaffected by the sweeping change that is getting ready to take over their reality. While in the Singularity, I feel like a version of reality plays out where Cloud and Zack are reacquired by Hojo, and Cloud, being seen as a failed experiment, is discarded and found by Tifa, or something along those lines, and the party still found their way through the events of the game and wound up in the Singularity, but that Cloud did not have the Buster Sword. He would have had some other weapon, he would have found some other big sword, they would have outfitted him with something, he got the hard edge, he bought a hard edge or something like that, But the Buster Sword is actually, in that sense, kept in the lab with Zack. But where Present A's Cloud had the Buster Sword when he went into the Singularity and everything changed, poof, 2 Buster Swords. That's my take on it. Either that, or Shinra just makes another Buster Sword. But I think that's too easy. So I don't think that's the way they're going to go. So what is up with Zack then? Well, quite simply put, I feel like he has been reactivated and planted into the world by Hojo. Why, you ask? Think about it for a second. Shinra would have knowledge and have kept tabs on everything going on with every member of Soldier, so there would be a record of Zack and Aerith having a romantic relationship. What would Hojo's motivation be? Well, he's obsessed with Aerith. She's his precious specimen. If Rufus Shinra switches Shinra's focus away from finding the Promised Land, then Hojo may not have every asset at his disposal to track down Aerith and reacquire her. And he's obsessed with finding her. So what would his ace in the hole be? He would let Zack out. Unbeknownst to Zack, because we know that Hojo can experiment and mess with people's minds and make them think this and make them forget this and make them do all these other things. It would be unbeknownst to Zack that he would be leading Hojo right to Aerith. Because let's face it, Zack is absolutely going to be looking for Aerith. The ending of Intermission tells us that. You all know I'm big on this channel of taking what the narrative gives us, take the little breadcrumbs that the narrative gives us, and elaborate on those. Let your mind kind of expound on those things. So the end of Intermission absolutely tells us Zack is going to be looking for Aerith. And she's heading to Calm. She's probably in Calm at that point, just outside of Calm at that point. So she's not far away. So I think in Remake Part 2, he might be on their trail. Not in a bad way, not that he's like wanting to confront, but he's going to lead Hojo right to the team. So now, who sets things in motion? Who is responsible for the Whisper saving Zack and the butterfly effect and all this mess? Sephiroth. I believe that Sephiroth has fully manipulated the will of the planet through the negative life stream and had a hand in some of the things the planet decided to change. I think he may have used his powers of manipulation to actually manipulate the planet itself and some of the things that wanted to go back and change. Sephiroth has vast knowledge of everything, especially with Shinra, the planet, all this other kind of stuff, so he would know when and where things would need to be changed to his benefit. But here's the thing. He did not have the power to do so at the time, so he would have had to manipulate the planet to do so. There's actually a moment where Aerith sees Zack going into his final battle with Shinra in Remake when they're on the highway. And as the camera pans out, Aerith seems shocked and confused Then the camera cuts to Sephiroth, smirking at her. Sephiroth knows about the romantic past between Aerith and Zack. There's this scene from Crisis Core where Sephiroth acknowledges their relationship.
They've been sighted in Midgar as well.
I see.
The slums too. Permission to return granted.
Yeah.
Take care.
You too.
So Sephiroth is at least aware of what the planet is showing Aerith, almost as if it's all going according to his plan. A plan that would see things change so much that any information the planet has given Aerith about previous time loops would now be unreliable. Though she may be able to still commune with the planet, this would now truly become an unknown journey. Just like the game says at the end, the unknown journey will continue. I think that's how it happens. I think that's what's going on. That's my full theory on that. There are several little things that lead me to believe, that the little reverberations from the butterfly effect are affecting time. One of the big ones being Wedge actually survives originally. Not in the original game, but in Remake, when he falls and he catches himself, like having that little zip gun and breaking his fall, that's butterfly effect stuff. He did not have that in the original time loop. That caused him to not die. When he landed, he got injured, but it was like he fell off of the roof of like a small building rather than falling from the top of the pillar, which would have killed him. But now he lived at least long enough to see into the Shinra building and everything. That's an example of butterfly effect. Throughout the game, you hear chatter about the Shinra War, the war with Wutai. It's over. It's done. It's over. We won. Midway through the game, there's chatter that Wutai might still be. The war may not quite be over. Wutai might still be fighting back. And then at the end of the game, when you're getting ready to go, the beginning of the Belly of the Beast chapter, when you're going into the the Shinra building. And Cloud and Barrett and Tifa are talking back and forth, and then Cloud's like, yeah, it's basically just a ceasefire. It's basically just the war's on pause. So it's not over now. So there's little examples like that throughout the game that show that things are kind of changing and in flux as you're playing through the game, which is why I think the butterfly effect theory is a plausible one, and the one I'm going with, because things would have had to have been changed way before Zack survives his encounter with Shinra, because the stamp bag changed. And stamp was created as a propaganda mechanism to get kids into Shinra, basically get kids into fighting for Shinra and all this kind of thing way back in the day. So that could have been the first change. We don't know. I haven't speculated further on that. Whatever the first change could have been, how far back it would have went, the planet's manipulation by Sephiroth, and Sephiroth knowing what's going to be changed. So it's all in accordance with his plan. And before I finish, here's something to think about too. Now, everybody that was not in the singularity is affected by the sweeping change from the butterfly effect. Who else was not in the singularity? Think about it. Right there on my video. That scene right there. I could have timed that perfectly. That scene with Yuffie right there. Now, it may not be. It may be that she remembers Sonnen and all that kind of stuff. But who's to say this right here is not Yuffie not at Midgar yet? Like, everything in Intermission happened before the anomaly. Happened before the singularity took place and the change in time. So all that stuff would be different. See what I'm saying? Food for thought. Yuffie could be different. Sonnen may not have happened. And the deep ground stuff in Intermission may not have happened like that. We don't know. So if we get to Wutai and there's a Sonnen in Wutai who is a able fighter or whatever, he's not dead, and this was the game's way of introducing Sonnen, it's possible. It's possible. what I'm basically saying is the sky's the limit with this theory. I'm excited for what we're going to see. I think it's going to create a paradox. I believe we're going to have not a time paradox, but there's going to be a reality paradox where the singularity, them being inside the singularity, all 5 of them being in there and then coming out, and Sephiroth being a part of the singularity as well. I think it's going to create a paradox, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes moving forward. So that's my theory. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all really dug that. I'm really excited about where this is going. I'm really excited about where the channel's going. Thanks for all the love and support you all been showing. I can't thank you enough. Big stuff happening this week. Patreon announcements. YouTube members, you're going to be getting exclusive access to a lot of stuff starting this week. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you have not become a member, please consider becoming a member. Got great stuff coming for you all. A lot more theory, deep dives, shorter bite-sized videos for YouTube members, but those will be exclusive to YouTube members. So I thank you all so much. Have a great night. Be safe. Be good to each other out there. And whatever you do, don't litter. Don't litter. Don't throw bottles out windows, because you never know what cataclysmic event you could be welcoming. You don't want to usher that in. You don't want to usher in the age of Armageddon because you want to throw a McDonald's cheeseburger wrapper out the window. Think about it. And remember Final Fantasy VII Remake and all those kids on the upper plate who are now mourning because some little rift in time. Anyway, y'all have a great night. Keep rocking, and I will see you all soon.